I wanted to do a narrated flight video. Been in RC for quite some time, but just recently started flying again. It's been a few years. Mainly did a lot of 3D, and then did some FPV when I kind of put the radio on the shelf for a while. And just recently, watching videos and stuff out there, I decided it'd be fun to do some more FPV stuff. I used to fly all analog, and watching some videos on YouTube. The new Walksnail Avatar HD stuff looked pretty appealing to me, so I thought I would build a plane and get it in the air and see how things went. I used to use Eagle Tree vector system for a flight controller back in the day, and of course they're no longer making those units, so I had to buy a flight control board, or actually I bought the AtomRc Swordfish, which comes with the board. You can purchase it that way, and thought that I would learn how to use iNav on that. Thought about ArduPilot, but I think there's a little bit steeper learning curve with that, so thought I better start with iNav and go from there. So my personal best was actually with a Radian back in the day with the Eagle Tree vector system in it, and flew out just at 4 miles. So this flight you'll see here, I basically equaled that distance. So I was getting about 3 miles, just a little over 3 miles with the Swordfish when I first got it in the air after getting it built. And since then, really haven't been able to get that kind of a distance. So I made some changes, got some information from bonafidepirate. He has a really nice YouTube channel. I highly recommend that you go look at that. I've watched him for years. Really good pilot. I like the way he does his stuff, and he just does a really good job at it. He had given me a tip on increasing my power a little bit on my Walksnail system, so I did that prior to this flight, and this will be the result of those changes. So the Swordfish is really forgiving, in my opinion, as an airframe. I think it does a really great job. It's very stable, easy to fly, easy to work on. There seems to be plenty of room in it, so just really like this platform. I did have early on, you will see from the launch on this video, I do have a tendency for the auto launch system. It really does want to roll to the left every time I launch it, and when I first started flying it, I did have a couple of mishaps, put it into the ground, and had to glue the front nose back on. But since then, it's been pretty rock solid since I figured those challenges out. But ever since then, the auto launch, the first 2 times I launched it, the auto launch worked fine. Threw it up, took off, hands off, no issues. But now, and I haven't been able to figure this out, but when you throw the aircraft up for launch, it does want to dip to the left, and you can see at the beginning of this video I came really close to that tree. So anyway, if I could get that auto launch stuff sorted out, I'm not sure what changed. I'm wondering if maybe after hitting the ground a couple of times, if maybe that did something to the Navi flight controller on board. But I'll need to continue to try to figure that out. I did go ahead and order another board, or actually I ordered another Swordfish just as a backup. I like this airframe, this platform, so well that I thought I would go ahead and order another one. So in this part of the flight, you can see I'm just a little over 2 miles out, and I was just checking my signal about probably the brown field that you see ahead of me there, just off the front of the nose. I could get about 3/4 of the way out to that field, and I would start losing signal, so I'd have to turn around and come back. And right here, basically, I'm kind of changing directions a little bit just to see what my bit rate does, if it increases or decreases, just to try to figure out if there's a sweet spot on where I need to be as far as a heading. So that's looking back there at way back at the launch site. I'm still running the stock antennas that come with the Avatar HD kit, and I do have a set of hammers that I'd like to put on it, but I'm going to have to change the transmitter mount. And the weather has actually been good as far as the wind. We have had some rain and some storms in the area, but the winds have been pretty calm. So I've been trying to fly and haven't had a whole lot of time to work on it, because I'm going to have to pull the video transmitter tray out and rework it, put the new antennas in it, and I have a USB that goes into the camera that's glued to the bottom of that, and it's almost impossible when you glue it to that 3D printed part. It's almost impossible to get the thing apart. So anyway, that 3D part did come from bonafidepirate. He was building one for his swordfish, and I just basically printed it, and he was kind enough to reprint it for me, because my antennas were a different diameter than what he had originally made the 3D printed file for. So I really do appreciate that. So right here, I'm just headed south, basically. Again, I'm right at that 3 mile mark, and this is basically the distance that I flew out before I turned that transmitter power up, and then I would have to turn around and come home. So as I move further south here, I'm still kind of hunting around a little bit just to see what my bit rate's doing, and it does drop there. You can see it's at about 6 or 7, and I was starting to get a little bit concerned about that, just being down into the single digits. But as you'll see here, I continue out to the 4 mile mark, and the video signal actually held up for me. So I think I could go a little bit further, and I'm kind of anxious to get the hammer antennas on it just to see how that does. So I do have to be careful right here. You can see just above the left engine, right at the horizon, there is a big antenna out there, and I'm about at that altitude. I'm just a little bit over 400 feet, but you can see the blinking light there on top of the tower. So that's actually really hard to see. I'm flying from a 7-inch, just a portable 7-inch monitor. That's a little 12-volt ready-made RC monitor that I had bought back in the day. I'd like to have gone further. I'm starting to get into where I'm running out of open field, and I started getting a little bit nervous about that. You can see the east-west road just off my nose now. There's a set of railroad tracks actually that run through there, and that east-west road is basically where I fly up to and turn around. There is some trees there, just a little bit off to the left, and then some more open field that I could probably head down, but if I had to put the aircraft down there, it might be kind of tough to retrieve it. I suppose I could walk along the railroad tracks, but not sure that's the best idea. Anyway, so here pretty quick I'll start making my turn. Right here you can see me making my turn, and I'm right at the 4 mile mark there. I'm not too concerned about flying over this area right here. It's industrial, and again there's some open field there that if I did need to put the aircraft down, I could do that. So bit rate still pretty solid, around 6 or 7. You can see it drops there just a little bit, but then it pops right back up, and really no loss of signal. So I'm also working on a T1 Ranger. I'm hoping to get that up and running here pretty quick, and I have the new Walksnail Avatar Pro kit that has, I believe they call it gyro flow in it, so that'll be something else I'll need to figure out is the gyro flow stuff. On this particular model, I am using the sneaky FPV fonts. Unfortunately, I have a hard time converting. I know Walksnail, in talking with Keith, bonafidepirate, he indicated that there's no way to load those fonts to the iNav system or Walksnail. I guess maybe Walksnail, you can't really load it to the, I guess you would load it to the transmitter or receiver, and there's no way to do that from what I understand from him, and it's something I think that Walksnail will hopefully address to fix that issue. So I have to go in and use the overlay tool. I operate Macs. I used to do a lot of the photograph stuff, so I operate, or I have Macs, so the Mac doesn't really play well with the OSD tool, so I have to I have an older Windows computer, but it's very difficult for me to get those converted. So I struggle with that a little bit, but I do like the sneaky FPV fonts, and again, that's something that bonafidepirate put me onto, and I just think those fonts look really good. I still have the issue with the fonts blinking. I think that's a known issue, and hopefully that'll get fixed at some point as well. But from there, I mean, everything else is working pretty good. Just this aircraft just cruises around really well, and like I said, the weather's been good, so I've been getting quite a few flights in, getting more experience on the flights, and I try to keep it simple. There's so much that you can do with iNav, or if you're, I think even Ardru pilots even more complex and can do more with that. I hope to maybe start playing here soon with waypoints and going from there. I did have a friend that went with me on this flight. I handed him the radio, and he's actually now flying it home. Gave it to him just over this field that you see below my left. Actually, it's behind us now, but he flew it home from there. One other thing I do want to do is, as you can see, as I'm panned there, he's panned there, I have the horizon that shows up. The horizon indicator shows up. I would like to get rid of that, and I think there is a way. I know bonafidepirate does that, where he basically, I think, has a second OSD set up, and when you do pan to either side, when you initiate that pan, I think it switches over to the other OSD that's exactly the same OSD minus that horizon indicator. So anyway, I'm flying back. We're almost back here to the home point. We set up at the edge of this little parking lot here. This is the high school close to where I live, and we basically fly off of that little field there. Sometimes grass is pretty high. You can see off the front of the nose there. There's a couple of practice soccer fields. Sometimes the grass where I land is pretty high there. Sometimes they don't cut it very often, so it does kind of make landings a little bit more difficult, but I manage to get it on the ground safely. I'll also fly out this direction. Sometimes I'll flip my antenna around, and I will fly out. This is west, to the west, and I haven't done a flight very far out that way with the new setup. I'm kind of anxious to do that, just to see with the new power settings, I should say, on the video transmitter. I would like to fly out that way and just see how well it does going out that direction. There's pretty much open field out there for at least a couple miles, 2 or 3 miles, and haven't really flown to the north either, north of those fields that you see. That's probably an option as well. Typically here, I try to fly into the wind on my leg out. Here, my buddy, as I mentioned, was flying, and he was flying more line of sight right now, just trying to get a feel for how the aircraft handles and stuff, and so he can see it. Is still in cruise. I can't remember. I think maybe it may have been on the second flight where he flew pretty much the whole flight. We did do a second flight that night, but I think at that point I took it out of cruise for him so he could fly it a little bit in acro mode. I think that was a second flight, not this flight. But just been real happy with this airframe so far, and really do appreciate the help that I've received again from bonafidepirate. He's been a big help, and I really do appreciate it. And if you like this kind of stuff, I really do recommend you go watch his stuff out on YouTube. He just does a fantastic job with it, and he's just a great pilot, and he knows the ins and outs of the FPV stuff very well and how it works, and he just does a really good job. So I think here, probably just within another couple of minutes here, we'll probably try to bring it in to land. I do spin it around. I took the radio over from my buddy, and I did do the landing, and it wasn't the greatest landing in the world, but it was safe enough. So I think the field is kind of clumpy grass, and I think that's where kind of hangs me up. I think there is a little wheel on the bottom of the fuselage, and that wheel basically, I think, kind of bumps around on the clumps of grass and spins the aircraft around. So I'll keep working on those landings though, and we'll get there. I am trying to get my buddy to get back into the FPV stuff. We, back in the day, flew the E-Flight, or I think back then, I don't remember if Park Zone made a Radian and then it was sold to E-Flight. I'm not really sure what happened there, because when I got out of it, it looked like it changed to maybe somebody bought the rights to, maybe E-Flight bought the rights to the Park Zone stuff. I'm not really sure what happened there, but the Radian was a plane that we flew, even though it's just a powered glider. We would go up for hours with that thing, find the thermal, and having an FPV camera on that was just a lot of fun. I think he one day flew for an hour and a half, just catch a thermal, and he'd come back with most of his battery left. So he really enjoyed doing that, and in my opinion, I think this airframe, the Swordfish, the AtomRc Swordfish, I do believe that it kind of handles like the Radian in a way, but you've got more power, you got more cruise to where you can get out some distance a little bit easier, in my opinion. And the Radian works, but if it's real windy, it's a little tough to cut through that wind. So that's where I think this Swordfish, it does a fine job of penetrating that wind a little bit better, and it's just a real sweet cruising little airplane. And I think it's a great choice probably for someone getting into the hobby, even if you were just to fly at line of sight. So I think here I'm probably getting close to here in just a bit. We'll set up for a landing and get it on the ground, and we'll go from there. It's the sky last night, or when we made this flight, was just really awesome, and we've just had a lot of storms in the area, and the clouds just really do enhance the view. I love to fly later in the evening. We flew a little bit earlier this particular evening, just because the cloud cover, and it started getting a little bit darker a little bit earlier. So I think right here pretty quick. He was just kind of, my buddy was still flying around a little bit, and here coming up, I think I'd take over the radio and finally get it in for a landing here. But just an awesome flight. Really enjoy it. I think the weather's going to be pretty good today, so I think I'll probably try to get back out today and do a flight and a flight or two. Originally I only had one battery. I did get a new battery in the mail yesterday, so I can go out and do a couple flights now in an evening, and that'll get me a little bit more flight time and a little bit more opportunity to learn here and progress in the FPV stuff. So I will say I think, coming out of Eagle Tree, I think the iNav and using the modern day flight controllers, I think that I think they're maybe a little bit easier than the Eagle Tree stuff. We used to always set up the tracking where with the Eagle Tree stuff where our ground station antennas were basically on a servo, and they could be tracked with it would track the location of the aircraft. So I think optimized your signal as far as where the airplane was and where the antennas were pointing. So, but that's just a lot to set up, and I think this is a little bit easier and a lot less stuff to take to the field. So, all right. So this coming up here should be the landing. Hopefully, I'll get a little bit better at the landing. You can see there's a couple practice fields there. Not brave enough to try to go through the goalposts there yet, but we'll see. Maybe one of these days I'll get a little bit more comfortable. I'll maybe try to see if I can't make it through one of the goalposts. So here we come in. We'll land it right here, just past this shed, and I think it might even do a 180 here. But anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. I appreciate you viewing. Thanks.